Just went and saw Clay Clark at his establishment. What an amazing setup he's got. Anyway, I've been telling everybody we're watching. We're patriotic Americans. We love our country, but it's painful watching what's happening to this country. You make that statement, immediately people will respond with, yes, it is painful watching what's happening to our country. But those pains were prophesied by Jesus. They're called the birth pains. And the birth pains are escalating. And we are approaching a serious event in that birth pain process called the breaking of the water, which is like a sac of amniotic fluid. And so the breaking of that sac of water is sealed. It's a sealed sac. Breaking of the water is like the breaking of the seals in Revelation 6, where the four horses are. So as we keep moving forward in this prophetic timeline, the horses are about to come out. When the water breaks is the breaking of the seal, Revelation 6. And so we have, we're like a huge crowd at the Kentucky Derby. The horses are behind the steel gates. The crowds are all gathered. The jockeys are on them. Everybody's waiting for the horses to come out. Boom. A gunshot fires, and then out come the horses. Wow. I go, we're going to see horses coming out. That's called the day of the Lord. It's all over in Joel. Joel says it's the day of the Lord, a day of darkness, gloom, large and mighty army comes. And so this day of the Lord that we know is described in Joel 2 as a large and mighty army comes. It's the military attack by the United Nations to enforce international law. This country has been officially declared in violation of international law by Kofi Annan, Secretary General at the time. George W. went into Iraq, where he was not authorized to do that. He approached the UN for authorization. They denied him. And so after no weapons were found, we were officially declared in violation of international law. And that was done on purpose, orchestrated to justify what's being planned is a large military action against this country, which means they're going to come at us like Pearl Harbor style, the Joel 2. A large and mighty army comes, like the world's never seen before, never been nothing like it in ages to come. Anyway, Joel 2 verse 20 says they will be driven back out. I go, that's going to be a tough job, but I think we have a destiny, and we will be playing a part in that process of driving them back out after 390 days of siege, described in Ezekiel 4, where you're told to store up 390 days worth of food because this is war. War is getting ready to pop loose because the four horsemen is the rider on the white horse rides forth as a conqueror bent on conquest. The conquest of our country is being orchestrated, being planned for decades, generations even. And so the conquest is the globalist that stated a long time ago global government's coming either by consent or by conquest. It's going to happen whether you like it or not. So I heard a military expert make a statement. He said in all the histories of wars that have ever come and gone, every time opposing forces are engaged in a conflict, the side that always loses are the ones whose supplies are cut off. And so we're watching 300,000 shipping containers off our west coast. We can't get those supplies. You can go to Ice Age Farmer. He shows videos of the Port of Vancouver, which a third of Canada's import-export, a third of their commerce is gone because railroad tracks have been washed out, bridges have been blown, collapsed. There's no way it's going to be restored, and massive amounts of rain came down, just unbelievable. The tornadoes ripping through 5 states, killing 100 people. This is all birth pains. It's part of the process. But the most significant thing is the supplies are being cut off. That's why our troops were brought out of Afghanistan without $85 billion worth of their equipment, meaning our men who fight for this country have just been deprived of all the supplies, the tools they need to do their job. They don't have them anymore. And guess who's got them? The enemy. The enemy been supplied, and our supply has been taken away. So this is escalating. Now they have all the equipment they need. They're ready to come. Things are escalating. The second horse is red, has a sword, power to take peace from the earth. You're taking peace from the earth, you started the war. Ezekiel, or Ezekiel says get 390 days supply of wheat, barley, beans because food's going to be scarce. That's because our supplies are being taken away. And the third horse is saying it'll be a day's wages for a quart of wheat. Now, a day's wages for a quart of wheat, that means a man going to work all day. So here's the 4 examples. Some people are going to have a Job day coming. Job's an example. Everything happens just like this future event. The day of the Lord is the fire of God fell from the sky on Job. 3 bands of Chaldeans, bands of sabeans attacked him. And his fields are destroyed. His house is blown over. Children are killed. Loses everything he owns. And he's very prosperous at the time. End result is he does get everything restored back to him double, but he suffers sores and boils in the sole of his feet, top of his head like a radiation sickness. No hair on his head like chemotherapy patients lose their hair from the radiation. Scraping the borders with broken pottery because there isn't any pottery that's not broken. And then, so some people can have a Job day coming. You don't want to be one of them people. Or Nebuchadnezzar, who had a kingdom, the greatest kingdom in the world, is an example of the United States at this time. And the tree that he had a dream of is the description of the United States as well as his kingdom at that time, because the top of it touched the sky, and we put a human hand on the moon, picked up moon rocks, brought them back. That's touching the sky. The tree was beautiful to behold, where America the beautiful. The tree had branches extending to the uttermost parts of the earth. The tree had branches. And we have military branches all over the world. And then the tree had fruit abundant for all. The whole world fed from the fruit of the branches. We're the bread basket of the world, fruit basket. Anyway, so the tree represents the United States, and we're falling. The November 3rd, 2020 was the fall of the United States of America, constitutional government of the people, because the people had to have a voice in the ballot box, and it was taken away from us. So the ballot box was taken away. We fell. Our country was overthrown. The government running the United States today is the government of the deep state. The deep state has taken over. The borders are being overrun. They shut down the oil pipeline, cutting off our oil supplies. Trump was making us energy independent. Now we're going to be energy short. This is about the 10 virgins, 5 wise, 5 foolish, waiting for the bridegroom to come. If you're a prudent, and if you want to be a wise virgin, you will get yourself extra vessels of oil. That's the only difference between the foolish virgins and the wise virgin. Wise ones, well, they had extra vessels of oil. Get yourself some barrels, drums, whatever. Stock up on fuel. Without fuel, you're completely handicapped, like a paraplegic in a wheelchair. You might be able to look around. You might be able to think and see and know what's going on, but a paraplegic, they just can't move. Their legs don't work. Well, that's you without fuel. You can't move. You will be stationary and immobilized. You don't want to be there. Okay, so you don't want to be a Nebuchadnezzar. His kingdom fell for 7 years. He became mentally ill, slept out in the fields, dew formed on his back. He ate grass. 7 times passes by, and at the end of which he does acknowledge that there is a God in heaven that raises kingdoms up, takes them down, and so therefore he does see his sanity return, his kingdom's restored, and it goes on to be even greater than it was before. Same as Job. He went on to be double prosperous as he was before. Or you might have a BELSHAZZAR day on the night the hand wrote on the wall. That night Darius the Mede attacked, his kingdom was overthrown, and he died that night. There's going to be a lot of people die on this night. In the middle of the night, it's coming like a thief in the night. Jeremiah 6 says the army's coming from the north, disaster from the north. They're planning to attack at noon, but the daylight fades, so they have to change their plans and make it a night attack. Yeah, it's going to be a night attack. And so on that night, Belshazzar, he died. Another example is Egypt, greatest kingdom in their history of the world at their time. The Pharaoh has the dream. There'll be 7 fat cows consumed by 7 skinny cows. That's predicting 7 abundant years precede 7 lean years that are coming. We're seeing the lean years coming. We're seeing the tree falling. We're seeing the birth pains escalating. So you could be a Joseph. Joseph stocked up for 7 years. When the lean years came, all the people had to come to him to get some food because he had copious amounts of food. Lots amounts of food. So you want to have lots amounts of food. You can be a Joseph. So there's your four choices. You want Joseph to be your example, or do you want Belshazzar to be your example, or do you want Nebuchadnezzar to be your example, sleeping out in the fields? Because we're going to see EMP, grid down, all supplies stopped. Isaiah 33, woe to the destroyer who's never been destroyed. When you stop destroying, you will be destroyed. That's us. We're the destroyer. We're stopping. Trump announced war on terror is over. War on terror went on for 20 years. But Trump gets in office, says war on terror is over. Time to bring troops home. Biden decides it's time to bring troops home also, even though Biden did the opposite of everything Trump was doing, except for that one thing. He also continuing to bring the troops home. So it looks like the year is here. Jesus said in Matthew 24, two things no man knows. Nobody knows the day or the hour. So it looks like the year. There's lots of indicators. Birth pains escalate. Water breaks. Four horsemen come out. Ezekiel 4 says, Ezekiel 5 talks about the sword, the famine, the plague, and the wild beasts. And Ezekiel 5:9 says the Lord's going to do what's never been done before, will never be done again. So what is that talking about? It's talking about the four horsemen, because it says in Revelation 6, they have power to kill by the sword, the famine, the plague, and the wild beast on 1/4 of the earth. I can explain that too. It happens at night. Night's only on half of the earth. Take the earth like an orange, set it up, North Pole, South Pole, slice it down the middle. You cut it in half. Now the harvest, the Joel 1, the day of the Lord, the farmers are grieving over the loss of wheat and barley out in the field. Slice it horizontally at the equator. You just quartered the earth like you quarter an orange. And those are descriptions of what's coming in the Word of God. So I'll cut this short. Make up your mind. Who do you want to be? I recommend you try to be a Joseph. Start stocking up. War is upon us. They're cutting off our supplies. You want to get lots of supplies. Thanks for tuning in. Talk to you later.